What happens when an old, outdated detective who barely keeps up with technology gets paired with a young detective who solves cases faster than your crush replies to your texts? The episode opened with Mashiro outside the Nagumo detective agency. Inside, a once famous detective Nagumo woke from a dream of solving a big case. His landlord called, demanding rent, pushing Nagumo to take a new case despite a debilitating backache. As he prepared to leave, Mashiro burst in. Misinterpreting Nagumo's fall as an attempt to look at her underwear, she attacked him. Nagumo dodged, asking who she was. Mashiro then frantically produced an old ad, announcing her desire to join as an assistant. Nagumo refused, deeming her a flashy high school girl unfit for detective work. Mashiro, offended, defended herself, highlighting his lecherous stare and her karate skills. She pressed to be hired, citing his difficulties running the agency alone. Nagumo sternly explained that detective work was tough, requiring vigilance, fearlessness, and self-control, emphasizing it wasn't a job for someone like her. Mashiro again threatened him with her karate and demonstrated a bizarre storage technique by making a large spear disappear into her clothes. She then punched Nagumo. Nagumo, acknowledging her insight, dismissed her, telling her to bother someone else. Nagumo's new case involved tailing Tamura, an office lady suspected of infidelity. Noticing Tamura's unusual route, Nagumo suspected a meeting with a new boyfriend. Tamura entered a trendy cafe, which Nagumo found too flashy for himself. Just as he decided to observe from outside, Mashiro grabbed him, suggesting they pretend to be a couple to enter without drawing suspicion. Nagumo agreed. Inside, Mashiro ordered a ridiculously long-named drink, while Nagumo struggled with the menu. He tried to dissuade Mashiro from assisting him, but she insisted, citing proximity to her home. Mashiro then correctly deduced Nagumo was investigating an affair. Nagumo confirmed, needing a photo as evidence. Mashiro warned him that his staring would get them caught. When Tamura looked their way, Mashiro quickly acted like Nagumo's girlfriend, feeding him, making Tamura dismiss them as a couple. Mashiro gloated, but Nagumo scoffed at her nervousness. Mashiro criticized his old methods, explaining modern smartphones could easily take photos. Nagumo, surprised, admitted his instincts had slowed, but clung to his old, great detective techniques. Nagumo then spotted Tamura embracing her boss, confirming his suspicions. He pulled out a large, old camera. Mashiro protested, then snatched the camera and quickly took photos of them from various angles. That evening, Nagumo presented the photos to his client, confirming his wife's cheating. He again tried to dismiss Mashiro. She insisted on being his assistant, reminding him of her help. Nagumo gave her a voucher, but refused to hire her as a full assistant, saying she was too young. She accepted, then grabbed his coat. Nagumo asked about her first job, and she replied it lacked excitement before leaving. Nagumo asked her name, and she replied Mashiro. As Nagumo re-entered the agency, his back gave out again. Mashiro returned, scolding him. A new client complained they'd caught the wrong cat. Nagumo wondered what to do with the cat they had. Mashiro declared the cat Cerberus their new pet at agency. Cerberus promptly spat on Mashiro, who then disciplined it. Mashiro then put up a terrible ad poster for the agency, stating they accepted all jobs. Nagumo tore it down, asserting their detective standards. Mashiro countered by mentioning his cat crawling and revealed she'd plastered 500 posters throughout the street. Cerberus then appeared with an insect, which Nagumo, terrified of bugs, fled from. Mashiro calmly removed the bug, realizing Nagumo's fear, and started chasing him with it. Nagumo grabbed her and threw her out the window, telling her to remove the posters. A girl witnessed this and reported it to the police. Nagumo calmly explained to the client that Mashiro was fine, despite falling 5 stories. The client, astonished, then revealed her actual request, a beehive removal. Nagumo immediately refused, admitting his fear of bugs. He decided to ask Mashiro, and struggled with using a phone, needing the client to teach him. Mashiro taking down posters and asked her to handle the bug removal alone. Mashiro excitedly agreed. Nagumo gave the client the address. Mashiro, hearing the address, went to a gang's hideout by mistake. Unbeknownst to Nagumo, consulting a bug book, instructed Mashiro via phone to reach the roof and assess the enemies. Mashiro entered a room full of gang members. Nagumo told her to spray pesticide. Mashiro sprayed the gang members, who panicked, thinking it was tear gas. Nagumo, still reading from his book, warned that the bugs would go crazy and attack. Mashiro was seen dodging swords and gunfire, eventually using a flamethrower. Nagumo heard the screams. Confused, only one gang member, Taro, remained. Seeing Mashiro drop her weapon, he attacked, but Mashiro revealed an even more dangerous weapon, terrifying him. Taro, 22, and a gangster for 2 years, felt death approaching and apologized, swearing to quit. Mashiro informed Nagumo the job was complete. Nagumo, pleased, asked about the species she defeated. Mashiro described them as having long legs, baffling Nagumo. Later, Nagumo read a news report about an attack on a gang's headquarters. He asked Mashiro if she was responsible, and she confirmed it. Nagumo was shocked. She fought a gang instead of beehives. Mashiro apologized for the mistake and then presented Taro, who declared himself their servant. Nagumo, stunned, told Taro to make coffee. Mashiro was thrilled to have a new agency member. The original client then arrived, asking about her beehive. Nagumo and Mashiro were speechless. After that, we are shown Nagumo and Mashiro watching a horror show on TV. Suddenly, a creepy scene appears, and both of them are scared. Mashiro quickly grabs a packet of salt to purify the place, but throws it at the TV without even opening it. Now, Nagumo doesn't have a TV. Mashiro then admits that she's scared of dark places and ghost-related stuff. Nagumo argues that those things don't exist. Mashiro challenges Nagumo to walk through a graveyard at night. Nagumo's only concern is the naked part. Suddenly, the doorbell rings and Mashiro goes to check. She sees her classmate Hayashida at the door and introduces him to Nagumo. While talking to Hayashida, Mashiro starts sweating. Looks like she's an introvert too. Hayashida explains that a ghost keeps showing up near his house. Mashiro is already terrified upon hearing the word ghost. He goes on to explain that he kept hearing strange noises, so he set up a surveillance camera. When he checked the footage, he saw what looked like a ghost. Nagumo suspects it's just someone playing a prank and says he and Mashiro will check it out. But Mashiro is already trembling with fear and says she can't do it. Nagumo then gives a heroic speech, telling her she can't beat him if she runs away from cases. Inspired, Mashiro agrees. She remembers her martial arts class when she asked her coach how to defeat a ghost, and the coach said, "Go for it." Knows that coach probably bought his teaching certificate off the black market. As night falls, they head to Hayashida's house. Mashiro checks Hayashida's laptop and sees something. When everyone looks at the screen, it's just an old naked guy passing by. Then, all of a sudden, the ghost appears, and our girl Mashiro screams, showing off all 32 teeth. Nagumo orders Mashiro to go and check it out, saying the ghost is fast and he needs her speed. Mashiro agrees to do it in exchange for a barbecue treat. When she gets there, the ghost is already gone. Instead, an old man shows up and gives her some food. She tastes it and gives a thumbs up to the camera. It's now the second day, and Mashiro is ready to catch the ghost. The moment it appears on the camera, she runs even before Nagumo tells her to. But again, the ghost is gone. The same routine repeats for several days. By the 7th day, Mashiro is looking more muscular than 90% of the boys out there. This time, when the ghost appears, Nagumo tells her to go through the window instead. She breaks the window and rushes over only to find nothing. Yet the camera still shows the ghost instead of Mashiro. Nagumo instantly concludes that the ghost is none other than Hayashida. He says Hayashida dressed up as the ghost and stood in front of the camera recording it. Later, switching the footage using a remote, Hayashida asks for proof, and Nagumo reveals that the remote is in Hayashida's pocket. Nagumo admits that he figured it out on the first day, but wanted to understand why Hayashida was doing it. He eventually deduces that Hayashida wanted to spend time with Mashiro. Nagumo even admits to doing something similar in 8th grade, hiding an MD player he borrowed from a girl just to look for it together. He was trying to Riz the girl before Riz was even a thing. Hayashida and asks for forgiveness. Nagumo is about to give a meaningful speech, but forgets the lines and simply tells him to talk to her directly. A few moments later, Mashiro returns, having actually beaten up a real ghost and brought it to them. Hayashida and Nagumo are left shaking in fear. In the next scene, Mashiro is searching for her pudding, only to find that Nezu already ate it. Suddenly, the news on TV reports that Nagumo has been arrested for stealing women's underwear. The look on Mashiro's face after seeing the news is hilarious. We see Nagumo being interrogated by Chief Inspector Mimasaka. Turns out they were once a high school detective duo. Mimasaka questions how one of the great detectives turned into an underwear thief. Nagumo insists he isn't guilty. Mimasaka pulls out an SD card. When Nagumo asks what it is, Mimasaka tries to play the video but breaks the player. Eventually, he plays the footage, which shows Nagumo appearing to steal underwear. Mimasaka closes the case, confident in the evidence. Nagumo claims the real thief was a pro trying to frame Nagumo. He says her assistant will uncover the truth soon. Nezu then ties a pair of underwear to a fishing rod and gives it to Mashiro, calling the plan Operation Fish Up the Underwear Thief. They plan to carry it through the city, hoping the real thief will strike. Mashiro theorizes that the thief operated in areas near the detective office and must resemble Nagumo to frame him. They draw lines connecting the incident spots and say it looks like the Big Dipper. Nezu argues it looks more like Uzbekistan. Either way, they get nowhere. Mashiro then dries her underwear outside Nezu's house. As expected, the thief comes. At first, Mashiro mistakes him for Nagumo, but when she realizes it isn't him, the thief flees. Nezu gives chase but faints when a bug lands on his face. Mashiro then continues the pursuit. Mashiro yells out the name of her weapon, causing the thief to freeze. She attacks him from behind and is about to teach him a lesson, but he manages to snatch her underwear and run. When Nezu arrives at the scene, he's terrified by Mashiro's rage. Back in the interrogation room, Mimosaka is wrapping things up when he hears noises outside. Mashiro barges in, announcing that she caught the thief who looks just like Nagumo. She beat him so badly that even Nagumo can't tell if they look alike anymore. In the next scene, Mashiro is chasing a serial arsonist called Knitman. She pulls a football from her treasure vault and kicks it. It misses him at first, prompting him to mock her, but the ball bounces back and hits him squarely. The arsonist is brought to the interrogation room. He reveals that he has hidden his art somewhere in a parking lot near the station, and that they have only 3 minutes to find it. Nagumo immediately assigns the task to Mashiro. The arsonist mocks her, saying a girl like her could never locate it in time. At the parking lot, Mashiro first finds a poster and thinks it's the right spot. Then she sees a box. Nagumo tells her not to touch it, but with time running out, she opens it and finds the art inside. Nagumo asks her to send a picture, and Mashiro sends a selfie. He tells her to take it seriously, and she sends another. Solo photos. Nagumo scolds her, saying that if she doesn't take this seriously, it could become her funeral picture. Mashiro panics with only 3 minutes left. She says she disarmed the art herself, recalling from movies that there are usually red, yellow, and blue wires, and you cut the red one. But when she opens the lid, she's met with a tangled mess of many colored wires. With 2 minutes left, she decides to move the device to an abandoned place. Mimosaka suggests an abandoned baseball field. She realizes she doesn't have enough time to place it in the center and escape, so she kicks it. The device bounces just like before and flies through the air. In the middle of the field is Nezu, following his hobby of taking pictures of abandoned places. The device explodes. Who knows what happened to Nezu? Let's just hope he's okay. Then the scene shifts to a man who is standing outside the Nagumo detective agency. He calls out to Nagumo-sensei, vowing to repay his debt to him. Inside, Nagumo receives the rent bill, but doesn't have enough money to pay it. Mashiro offers to lend some from her piggy bank, but it turns out she only has 500 yen. Just then, the man from earlier bursts in. Nagumo doesn't recognize him, and since the door was locked, Mashiro assumes he's a thief and kicks him, demanding to know how he got inside. The man admits he picked the lock. He introduces himself as Asunaro Yu, a high school detective. Nagumo finally recognizes him from TV as the top young detective in Japan. When Nagumo asks if he needs help with the case, Asunaro is lost in his thoughts, wondering why he hasn't been served coffee yet. Eventually, Mashiro brings him some. Asunaro, however, is still silently judging them for not serving it with milk and sugar. Then, he reveals the real reason for his visit. He wants to become Nagumo's assistant. Mashiro protests, saying she's already in that role. Asunaro says he's been following Nagumo since he was a high schooler who solved a major case, and now he wants to learn under him. Nagumo replies that he doesn't have the money to hire anyone, but Asunaro says he'll work for free. He's already rich from other jobs and is even willing to pay Nagumo tuition. Nagumo begins to consider it, but Mashiro protests again. Asunaro taunts her, saying he'd be more useful than she is, and the two begin to argue. In the next scene, Asunaro's assistant, Maki, announces a competition between the two, saying the winner will become Nagumo's assistant. Mashiro objects, pointing out that it doesn't make sense for Asunaro's assistant to set the rules. With Nagumo acting as the chief guest, the first challenge begins. Both are given a wire puzzle to separate a test of intelligence. Asunaro looks confident, but Mashiro finishes first. It turns out she just yanked the wires apart with brute strength. Apparently, all the cardio from the last episode gave her Goku-level power. Asunaro cries foul, but Maki points out she never said strength wasn't allowed. Next up is a code-breaking challenge. Maki has written down a cipher, and the first to solve it wins. Nagumo, meanwhile, wonders why they had to come outside for something that could easily be done in the office. Asunaro eventually cracks the code. It was the value of pi. Maki looks disappointed, and Mashiro accuses him of cheating again. Final challenge is a strength test. They must collect stamps from various locations and race back. Given Mashiro's speed, she seems like the likely winner. While Nagumo naps through most of the challenge, Maki tells him that Asunaro wants to restore Nagumo to his former glory, back to center stage. Nagumo admits Asunaro reminds him of his younger self. Unlike Nagumo, who had no partner, Asunaro has one. Nagumo even thinks Asunaro might surpass him someday. Maki is touched by this but asks Nagumo Nagumo not to fire Mashiro even if she loses, but Nagumo believes no one can beat Mashiro in raw strength. Unexpectedly, Asunaro pulls ahead in the race. That's when Mashiro realizes that if she loses, she won't be able to work with Nagumo anymore. She starts tossing stuff out of her vault to lighten her load, and the amount of stuff in there is insane. There's even a full person inside it. Wish I were in there too. With a final burst of determination, she powers up. We see a flashback to her martial arts training, where she asked her coach if she could become a detective. The coach responded, "Of course. Wait, what's a detective?" Mashiro wins. Asu admits defeat and says he's found his rival. Mashiro brushes him off, calling him annoying and telling him to go away. Nagumo, exhausted just from watching, tells her he didn't hire Asunaro because he believes Mashiro will make more money than him someday. She's deeply moved by this. Later, we see Nagumo still broke. Mashiro offers him money again. Suddenly, Asunaro appears out of nowhere, surprising them both. Maki gives them a yoken as a gift. Mashiro cuts it and takes a bite, and Asunaro looks like his soul has left his body. It turns out Asunaro actually came because he has a problem. He's being stalked. Maki guesses it might be a fan since he's so popular. Nagumo agrees to take the case. We see Asunaro walking through public areas, while Nagumo, Mashiro, and Maki tail him. Asunaro suspects a big guy might be the stalker, then switches to suspecting a woman in a van. Nagumo thinks this will go on forever. Suddenly, a group of girls surround Asunaro, asking for autographs. He ends up stripped of his clothes, but gets new ones just as quickly. Maki reveals this happens every day. Nagumo says he's already identified the stalker and tells Asunaro to relocate. Sure enough, the stalker follows them to the new location. Asunaro corners him in an alley and demands answers. The man tries to run, but Nagumo stops him. As Nagumo begins telling one of his stories, the man bolts again. Nagumo tries to chase him, but his joints give out. Now it's Mashiro's turn. She charges at him with a demonic aura, but the stalker distracts her and escapes again. Finally, Maki tries to stop him but doesn't know what to do, so she strips and throws her clothes at him. Even Nagumo didn't see that coming. They finally catch the stalker. Nagumo checks his face, and it's Nezu. At least we know he didn't die in last week's explosion. Nezu insists he's not the stalker. He says it's actually Asunaro. He explains that Asunaro has been hanging around the agency for a month, secretly following Nagumo everywhere. Maki, clearly furious, demands an explanation. Asunaro admits he was trying to study Nagumo's daily habits so he could find the perfect time to approach him. Maki looks like she's about to power up Dragon Ball's while. Suddenly, Asunaro uses Maki's move strips and runs away. Commands Nezu to go catch him. Nagumo closes the episode with a quote. They say the worst stalkers don't even realize they're doing it. The episode begins with Nagumo receiving an invitation from a wealthy man to attend a dinner party at an old villa in the middle of nowhere. Sensing something suspicious, he feels uneasy. But Mashiro is already excited to head out with him. The next scene, the two are seen crossing a rickety old bridge. Once across, they arrive at the villa known as the Old Nagasaki House, or the Mansion of Screams. It's owned by the rich and mysterious Hiroye Yasuo. Nagumo shares that a massacre once occurred there, and locals say the screams of the victims can still be heard to this day. They're welcomed at the door by a man wearing a smiling mask, who introduces himself as Watanabe. Mashiro immediately accuses him of being involved in the past massacre, but the man apologizes, saying he's too shy to show his face. While pointing toward the direction of the hall, a burn scar on his hand becomes visible, prompting Mashiro to blame him again. Inside, the other guests warmly greet Nagumo, likely recognizing him from his more popular days. Watanabe explains that this party has been held annually for the past 15 years, except for 1 year, 3 years ago. When Mashiro asks what happened that year, he casually replies that he caught the flu. Suddenly, Asunaro and Miyano arrive at the party. Miyano and Megumi begin arguing, and it's revealed they were once married but divorced after a long custody battle. Upset, Megumi storms out to take a shower. Asunaro tries to chat with Nagumo and Mashiro, but the two ignore him and head for the food instead. Asunaro then mentions it's his second time attending this party. Mashiro asks if he feels something suspicious is about to happen, and he agrees, though Nagumo brushes it off. Just then, a scream rings out. Mashiro turns to Nagumo, who denies hearing anything. They rush to Megumi's room but find the door locked. Nagumo attempts to break it down and injures his shoulder in the process. Mashiro, however, smashes the door open effortlessly, only to reveal she was just panicking over a cockroach as they return to the hall. The masked man shares the story behind the mansion. It once belonged to Nagasaki Kampachi, a wealthy man. One day, an intruder broke in and murdered the entire family. To prevent any escape, he severed the rope bridge. Only the eldest daughter survived. She had been staying at a friend's house that night. Suddenly, another scream is heard. Smoke is seen rising from the direction of the bridge, the only link to the outside world. Nagumo and Mashiro go to investigate. At the house, Asunaro tells the masked man that he rechecked the story and discovered a discrepancy. The bridge bridge hadn't been cut, it was burned to make it look like it had been struck by lightning. The masked man sheepishly admits he just read the story off a wiki. Nagumo and Mashiro find out a nearby tree was hit by lightning and scorched. Mashiro checks if the bridge is still stable, but with her Goku-level strength, she accidentally snaps it. Nagumo rushes back inside and informs everyone that the bridge has collapsed. He urges everyone to remain inside until the storm passes. Suddenly, a man dressed as a clown appears. When Nagumo asks who he is, the clown introduces himself as Seinen, saying he's been at the party since the beginning but hadn't introduced himself yet. Miyano approaches Nagumo and asks if the bridge really collapsed due to lightning. Worried they'll be exposed, Nagumo nervously confirms the lightning story, which satisfies Miyano. He then ominously suggests that history is repeating itself. Something terrible might happen. Just like 15 years ago, when someone questions why anyone would do this, Nagumo nervously deflects the question to his assistant. Mashiro theorizes that someone may be seeking revenge for the original incident and then asks Asunaro to identify the culprit. Without hesitation, Asunaro accuses Megumi of being behind the destruction of the bridge. Though Megumi denies it, at first, Asunaro reveals that she is actually the sole survivor of the original massacre. Megumi finally admits the truth. After the tragedy, Megumi had researched the killer and discovered he was related to Kuroi, the head of the household. Revenge, she got close to Kuroi and recreated the scene of the massacre to carry out her plan. She had planted a bomb on the bridge, which only detonated now due to a delayed reaction. Once the storm clears, the three detectives head toward the collapsed bridge. Mashiro wonders how they'll get back home. Just then, Maki arrives in a helicopter. To pick them up, curious Nagumo asks Asunaro how he figured out Megumi was the culprit. Asunaro simply replies, instinct. Back at the agency, Nagumo wonders why Kuroi, the host, was never seen at his own party. Mashiro reveals that Kuroi was present and Nagumo just didn't notice him. Feeling uneasy, Nagumo decides to head back, convinced something's still off. But it turns out that unease was just a symptom of aging. In the final scenes, Mashiro is seen playing Pokemon Go and catches a Pikachu. Asunaro asks Nagumo if he knows about the game, but Mashiro jokes that it took Nagumo a whole month to learn how to take pictures with his phone. Maki arrives looking for her master and assumes Mashiro is trying to take her picture. Mashiro explains she's just playing Pokemon Go. Nagumo doubts Maki knows anything about that, but Mashiro thinks otherwise and asks Maki if she knows Pikachu. Maki nervously replies that she does, and that Pikachu goes well with rice. Maki drinks juice while complaining about how quickly youth culture changes. Nagumo wonders just how old she must be to say that. As Mashiro cleans the office, she finds a telephone card. Nagumo teases her, saying she probably doesn't even know what it is, but Mashiro insists she's a heavy user. When he tells her to try it, she just puts it to her ear and says, hello. Meanwhile, Nagumo is busy taking burst shots on his phone. Maki says even Asunaro doesn't know how to use the card. He once tried paying a bill with it, assuming Maki is older than the others. Nagumo asks her age. That's when Maki suddenly remembers she wasn't drinking tea, but something much stronger. She then admits even she doesn't know how to use a telephone card and adds that she loves Pikachu. Then the scene shifts to Mashiro presenting her special dish. Nagumo eats it with barely any reaction, which annoys Mashiro. Nagumo casually mentions that he can eat anything salty that goes well with rice. Mashiro mocks him for his simplicity. Nagumo, in turn, tells her to meet him at a bar later and learn about the charm of adulthood. In the next scene, Mashiro and Nagumo head to the bar. Mashiro is amazed by the ambiance. Once inside, she's further impressed by the charismatic bartender. Nagumo orders a drink. Suddenly, a man named Bronto mocks Mashiro, calling her a needy puppy. Nagumo defends her, saying she's his assistant. Mashiro is confused by all the nicknames being tossed around. Bronto teases her again, asking if she wants milk. When the bartender asks for her order, Mashiro requests a drinkable yogurt, causing the bartender to faint. Nagumo reminds her to be more stylish bartenders. Appreciated. When the bartender recovers, Mashiro switches to ordering barley tea, and the bartender faints again. Feeling guilty, Mashiro regrets her choices. Bronto jokes that they could be comedians. He hands Nagumo a drink in a stylish way, but Nagumo fumbles it. They cover for each other's mistakes. Mashiro watches the bartender, noting his calm and stylish demeanor. She thinks to herself that this must be the world of adults. Then a woman named Veronica arrives. Nagumo knows her, and she begins to flirt with him. Nagumo asks if she's been drinking somewhere else because he smells alcohol or something like it. Veronica shifts her attention to Mashiro. When Nagumo introduces Mashiro as his assistant, Veronica teases her, saying she should come back when she's out of diapers. Nagumo changes the subject and asks the bartender what he wanted to discuss. The bartender explains that graffiti has been mysteriously appearing in the bar for 6 months. Every time he erases it, it returns. He offers to pay Nagumo for help, but Nagumo refuses, saying he doesn't work on his days off. He agrees to help as a favor instead, noting he won't accept payment. The bartender mentions Nagumo shouldn't pay today's bill. Mashiro realizes that's why Nagumo is always broke. Mashiro notes it'll be hard to find the culprit, but Nagumo says he already knows. He tells Mashiro to check the door, where another graffiti has just appeared. Veronica volunteers to investigate, but Nagumo accuses her of being the culprit. Veronica denies it. Nagumo explains that the smell wasn't alcohol, it was spray paint, and points out the paint mark on the bottom of her skirt. Nagumo asks her why she did it. The bartender theorizes she was trying to get Nagumo to visit more often. Embarrassed, Veronica tries to leave, but the bartender stops her, saying she hasn't even ordered a drink yet. The others encourage her to stay, and the group ends up drinking together. Later, Mashiro and Nagumo walk home. Nagumo asks how she liked the adult world. Mashiro replies that he seemed more mature than usual. Nagumo says he wants to share a drink with her when she turns 20. In the next scene, we shift to a dungeon. Two detectives, Nagumo and Asunaro, along with their assistants, arrive at the entrance. Asunaro questions if it's the right place. Nagumo explains they received a mysterious case offering 1 million yen with an upfront payment of 200,000 yen. The sender and details were vague, making Nagumo suspect a trap. Despite that, Asunaro and Mashiro are excited, and Nagumo, thinking about the money, agrees to proceed. Nagumo warns everyone to stay. Alert, Mashiro claims she's already on high alert, but Nagumo points out she's standing in a pile of human waste. They enter. Asunaro tells Mashiro not to shut the door in case it's a trap, but she already closed it. It won't open again. The concrete walls are thick, even too much for Mashiro to break through. Suddenly, a screen lights up. A man appears, saying he seeks revenge on the detectives. He says he doesn't want them to die trapped. He wants to beat them in a game. Asunaro asks, "What game?" And the man says it's a quiz. They must answer at least 1 out of 5 questions correctly. For each wrong answer, an embarrassing photo will be shared online. As a sample, he shows a photo of Maki, who groans in agreement. The first question, 3 people, B and C, their ages multiply to 30. What is B's age? Maki is about to answer, but the man says he'll choose. He picks Mashiro, assuming she's the dumbest. Mashiro thinks hard, but guesses 10. It's wrong. And another embarrassing photo of Maki appears. They get all the questions wrong, and more embarrassing photos of Maki flood the screen. Maki collapses and tells Mashiro that while there's no phone signal, the TV still works, meaning the man is close by, using wires to communicate. She urges Mashiro to break the wall. Mashiro smashes it like the Hulk. Maki storms through the hole, and though we don't see what happens, loud beating sounds echo from inside. In the next scene, Mashiro buys a wiretap detector. Nagumo has no idea what it is. She explains it detects hidden mics. He mocks it as a cheap toy, but she reveals it cost 120,000 yen. Nagumo is shocked. Mashiro tests it. Nagumo scoffs. We're in a detective agency. But when she clicks it, the device buzzes loudly. They're both stunned. Mashiro feels embarrassed that someone might be eavesdropping. She whips out a Morse code machine and starts asking Nagumo what he wants to eat, using dots and dashes. Next, she searches for the bug. Instead, she finds Nagumo's adult magazines and keeps them in alphabetical order. Her device picks up something beneath the floor. They head down and discover something called the agent's secret base. Without hesitation, Mashiro rings the bell. A trap activates. Mashiro cuts it, but a woman leaps at her, thinking Mashiro is CIA. Nagumo tells her to stop. When the woman looks at Nagumo, he is trapped like a cocoon. The woman, now calm, praises Nagumo's choice in assistants. Mashiro asks who she is. She replies that she does many things, but she's a science agent named Hoshino Azuha. Mashiro finds her cool. Azuha asks what they're doing. Mashiro says they found a bug, and Nagumo is planning to catch the culprit. Azuha pulls out a device and asks them to cover their ears. She screams into it, amplifying the sound. She explains the bug will pick it up, and the real culprit will suffer ear pain. Nagumo protests, but soon someone complains about ear pain. It turns out to be a pizza delivery guy who confesses he bugged the agency because he fell in love with Azuha while delivering pizza. Azuha asks Nagumo why he seems to be enjoying things lately. He's not sure, but says he never feels bored around Mashiro. In the final scene, Mashiro tries to wake Nagumo. He refuses. Mashiro grabs Azuha's screaming device and yells into it. Suddenly, a group of thieves hiding in the agency flee in terror. Mashiro is left standing there, startled. Then we see Mashiro watching TV, where it says that girls' night out is crucial to let off steam. Mashiro asks Nagumo about it, but Nagumo instantly rejects the idea, saying those things are more for cute girls. Mashiro transforms into her muscular form and asks if she's not cute. In the next scene, we see Maki entering a big restaurant. She tells the waiter that she has a reservation and sits at a table. It turns out Mashiro had hosted a girls' night out. Maki wonders who Azuha is. Then suddenly, Azuha appears with dowsing rods. The rods point toward Maki, so Azuha approaches her and introduces herself. As a token of love, she offers Maki a lizard, but Maki doesn't take it. Maki then introduces herself as the assistant of the Asunaro detective agency and gives Azu her card. They both sit down, and Maki is already panicking because she can't start a conversation. She mentions that Mashiro is late. Azuha tells her that Mashiro picked a fight with a truck on the way, so she will be late. Again, an awkward silence begins, and Maki starts panicking. Just then, Mashiro arrives in her muscular form, saying the fight was intense. Now the night out begins, and everyone's orders arrive. Mashiro starts chugging her drink and tells them to start girls' night out talks, beginning with Maki. Maki has no idea what to talk about, so Maki tries to start with relationship topics, asking if any of them have a boyfriend. Both Mashiro and Azuha instantly deny it. Then Mashiro asks if Azunato and Maki are dating, but Maki denies it. Maki asks Mashiro if she and Nagumo are dating, but Mashiro explains that Nagumo is just old and needs her help. Mashiro then asks Azuha about her type of guy, but Azuha answers are completely out of this world. Maki then guesses that the boys must be having a good night out. We cut to the boys, where Nezu and Osunaro are arguing because in the previous episode, Osunaro accused Nezu of being a stalker. Meanwhile, Nagumo can't read the menu because the letters are too tiny. Back to the girls, Maki decides to order something alcoholic. Mashiro wonders how old Maki actually is, but Maki dismisses it. We cut to Nezu and Asunaro still arguing because Asunaro squeezed lemon into their dish. Nagumo gives them a speech saying there is no right or wrong way to eat, it's just about preference. And there's already enough conflict in the world, so they shouldn't add more. Back with the girls, Maki is starting to get carried away. Mashiro and Azuha think that in this state, if they ask her something, she'll answer honestly. They ask her age, but Maki only says 20-something. Mashiro and Azuha try to rephrase the question, but her answer doesn't change. Finally, they ask what Maki thinks about Asunato. She replies that Asunato is always looking up to Nagomo-sensei, and that she thinks he's the most brilliant detective, so she likes to stay by his side. Mashiro then asks Maki to tell them a secret. Maki says she likes to wear ponchos to hide her body. Mashiro doesn't think she's fat, so she asks why. Maki explains she feels insecure about having small breasts, and ponchos cover her up. Mashiro starts messing with her by repeatedly asking about ponchos. The next day, Maki asks Mashiro if she revealed anything while drunk, but Mashiro refuses to tell her. Suddenly, Azuha comes from behind, saying she has something that can make breasts bigger. In the next scene, we see Nagumo scolding Mashiro because she's breaking things. Mashiro says she was just trying to clean the office right before breaking another item. She brushes it off, saying human-made things are easily breakable. See, Nagumo then says that Maki would never do that, which makes Mashiro angry. She tells him that if he likes Maki so much, he should keep her as his assistant. Cursing Nagumo, she storms out. Nagumo thinks she'll cool down by tomorrow. Mashiro hears that too. In the next scene, the assistants are exchanged. Maki is glad to work with Nagumo. He's about to explain the job, but Maki has already researched the client and his problem. Someone has been burning the client's garbage and mail. Maki decides they should visit the client's home first. Seeing this, tears well up in Nagumo's eyes. Meanwhile, we see Mashiro and Asunaro walking together. Asunaro is annoyed about having to work with her. Mashiro asks about the mission, and Asunaro says he's investigating reports of a suspicious man walking around almost naked. Mashiro takes out her phone, saying she has a picture, but it's of Asunato. He denies it and gives a description of the suspect. Mashiro draws the picture, but it still looks like Asunaro. Suddenly, a man matching the description approaches Mashiro to ask for directions, then runs away. Mashiro says she knows him, he's part of the big four of creepy old dudes, and Nagumo is part of it too. She chases him and catches him, but he escapes easily, as if his body is covered in slime. He runs awkwardly, so Mashiro decides to throw a paintball at him, but she accidentally hits Asunaro instead. The scene shifts to Nagumo and Maki interrogating their client. Nagumo suspects the harasser must live nearby. Suddenly, the same naked man runs past, with Mashiro chasing him Dragon Ball style. The harasser turns out to be a neighbor who suspects the client is having an affair with his wife. He warns Nagumo not to move. Nagumo starts thinking about Mashiro just before she arrives and punches both the naked man and the harasser at once. The police arrive. Maki says she's glad to have worked with Nagumo, though she's sorry she couldn't do much. Nagumo says it doesn't matter. Maki suggests bringing Mashiro back. Nagumo goes to find her. Mashiro asks how Maki was, and Nagumo says she was convenient and did everything for him. Mashiro seems angry, but Nagumo adds that because Maki did all the work, he felt bored and wanted Mashiro back. Mashiro apologizes, but only because she also broke the stove. In the next scene, we see two men in a sauna, but they quickly leave. Nagumo is there too, saying that saunas aren't for the weak, aren't an easy hobby, and aren't a place to relax, they're a place to go mad. We then see news that a man named Higashitani Deki has escaped while being interrogated. Nagumo recognizes him as someone Mashiro caught and says he'll deal with him later. Suddenly, the same man enters the sauna. Nagumo wonders why he would come there after escaping. Maybe he's just a lookalike. Then the news mentions the escapee has a dog tattoo on his back, and this man also has one. Nagumo doesn't want to fight and risk getting beaten, so he asks if they should increase the temperature, and Daiki agrees. Nagumo complains that the younger generation can't handle a sauna and runs away. Daiki starts bragging that he was also going to raise the temperature and says it's so cold he might get hypothermia. Both secretly praise each other in their minds. An old man enters, and Nagumo warns him not to go in because the sauna is about to become like purgatory. But the old man says it's not hot enough and raises the temperature massively. Nagumo faints from the heat. Nagumo wakes up to see Mashiro and Maki. He asks about the criminal, but they tell him he's already been taken by the police. Nagumo explains that he started a duel with the man. He then asks about the old man, who just walks out of the sauna. Nagumo thinks the old man knew exactly what was going on inside. Nagumo stands up, but his towel falls, and Maki and Mashiro quickly leave. The scene shifts to Nagumo, who says he is earning well, so he bought a coffee maker and some beans. He tries the coffee and finds it delicious. Mashiro immediately asks for some, which annoys Nagumo, but he still ends up giving her a cup. The coffee is so hot that Mashiro spits it right into Nagumo's face. Mashiro tries to offer him something in return, but Nagumo refuses. He makes her another cup, this time iced. Mashiro is happy and wants to compliment him, but can't get the words out. She takes a sip, but again spits it in his face, saying it's too bitter. Nagumo tells her she's not ready for black coffee yet and asks if she wants milk coffee instead. Mashiro refuses, insisting black coffee is for adults and she wants to be one. Annoyed, Nagumo leaves the office, telling her to keep watch. Mashiro, left alone, mutters to herself, how can Nagumo drink such bitter stuff? She starts imagining the time when the assistants were swapped and wonders how Nagumo and Maki spent their days together, but quickly shakes off the thought. Determined to prove herself, Mashiro goes to Azua for help in drinking coffee without tasting the bitterness, so Nagumo will see her as a mature woman. Azuha says she has thousands of ideas. Her first suggestion, drill a hole in Mashiro's skull and pour coffee straight in so she won't taste it. Mashiro refuses. Azuha then hands her a pill, saying it will numb her tongue so bitterness disappears. Mashiro, instantless, naps it before Azuha can stop her and runs away. Back at the office, Mashiro eagerly drinks coffee and doesn't taste any bitterness. Excited, she rushes to Nagumo, wanting to show off. But when she looks at him, she suddenly finds him attractive. Nagumo casually shows her a rock shaped like a butt he bought for her, and Mashiro's heart starts pounding. She wonders if the coffee caused this. Then Azuha calls, warning her about the pill's side effect. It makes the user become attracted to the nearest member of the opposite sex. Mashiro panics and tries to keep her distance from Nagumo, but Nagumo shows her his torn pants from a fall. Normally, his idiocy would disgust her, but she finds it adorable. Nagumo asks how she suddenly managed to drink black coffee, but Mashiro can't answer. He says he'll take her to his favorite coffee shop next time. Her face goes bright red. Concerned, Nagumo moves closer to check if she has a fever, which makes Mashiro even more flustered. He gently lifts her onto the couch, telling her to rest. As she feels dizzy, he says he'll step out for a bit, but she grabs his hand, begging him not to leave. With her immense strength, she squeezes so hard his hand starts turning purple. She's about to confess her feelings when suddenly the side effect wears off. Mashiro bows her head, apologizing. She explains that she hadn't realized the pill would cause this. Nagumo punishes her by making her bow for a whole day, but says he wouldn't expel her just because she can't drink coffee. He hands her a milk drink he made by mistake, saying he doesn't like it anyway. She tries it and immediately spits it in his face, saying it stinks. Later, Mashiro is seen teaching a child to draw Nagumo. Nagumo complains that a lost child is a hassle and should be left to the police, but Mashiro scolds him, saying, as a detective, he should help. The child suddenly snaps at her, saying, "Shut up, ugly," which makes Mashiro furious. Nagumo asks the child her age. She holds up 3 fingers. He asks, "So, 3, but she teases him. "How many do you see?" She runs around singing and playing with toys. When asked her name, she says Fu and adds that everyone calls her Beaver Fu. Nagumo asks Mashiro where she found her. Mashiro explains she was training in the park when she saw a UFO, but insists that's not the focus. Nagumo, of course, gets more interested in the UFO than the child. Mashiro continues continues, saying the girl approached her, asking for help to find her parents, calling her Miss Detective. Nagumo and Mashiro take Fu to Azuha for help. Nagumo says they need clues, but Azuha claims she only needs a strand of Fu's hair. She then reveals a cloning device to make her parents. Nagumo dismisses the idea. Next, they go to Asunaro, who claims to be an expert in such cases, but Fu hides behind Nagumo, scared of him. Asunaro says he's sure he's seen her before. Maki tries to comfort Fu, but suddenly, Fu kicks Asunaro right in the groin. Mashiro scolds her, but Nagumo realizes they're getting nowhere. He grows suspicious. Why did Fu call Mashiro Miss Detective at first sight? Why did she silence Asunaro before he could finish? Just then, Mimasaka arrives and asks what they're doing. Nagumo explains they're searching for the girl's parents. Suddenly, Fu calls Mimasaka father. She reveals that she sneaked in just to test Nagomand. He failed. She isn't an ordinary child. She's the daughter of the police. She puts on her suit, declaring herself the great phantom thief of the future. As a greeting, she proudly shows she's stolen Nagumo's wallet. Nagumo orders Mashiro to get it back, but she refuses, saying it's empty. Later, Nagumo tries to smoke, but finds his cigarette box empty with a note. Phantom Thief Beaver was here. Mashiro checks and finds everything: coffee, rice, toilet paper gone, each with the same note. So Mashiro catches her. On the news, a notice from Phantom Thief Riverfake announces a heist. They'll steal a famous painting. Nagumo realizes Fu idolizes this thief. Mimasaka explains to Nagumo that Riverfake never misses his target and no one knows his identity. The painting is worth 60 billion yen. Mashiro is shocked. Mimasaka describes the intense security: 150 cops, laser beams, boiling water traps, electric shocks, and more. Nagumo thinks it's overkill as they reminisce about their younger days. The power suddenly goes out. When it comes back, the painting is gone. Near the window, they spot Riverfake, who mocks the security. They tie him up, but he blinds them with a flash grenade, only to blind himself too. He then crawls up the wall like a cockroach, mocking them again. Mashiro uses a device from Azuha, which turns into a flamethrower. Nagumo panics, fearing the painting will burn, but Mashiro assures him it's fireproof. Seconds later, the painting is revealed to be half burnt. Mashiro panics, but Mimasaka reveals it was just a decoy. Outside, all the cops are fainted, and Riverfake is seen running naked. Suddenly, Fu drops from the sky and tackles him, crying that he's not the thief she admired. In the final scene, Nagumo receives a package from Mimasaka, but inside is only a note. Phantom Thief Beaver was here. Mimasaka scolds Fu for stealing it before it reached Nagumo. Fu angrily swears she crushed Nagumo next time. Thanks for watching the video till the end, and don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss our future videos.